Commander Jake Morrison walked through the long hallway of Nexus Station. His boots made quiet sounds on the metal floor. The walls were covered with strange symbols from dozens of alien worlds. Pictures of the Galactic Council's greatest moments hung everywhere. Jake had seen these pictures many times before, but today they made him angry. He stopped at the big doors that led to the council chamber. 2 tall alien guards stood there. They looked at Jake with their 4 eyes and moved aside without saying anything. Jake could hear voices from inside the chamber. The aliens were already talking about humans again. Jake pushed the doors open and walked inside. The chamber was huge, with seats arranged in circles going up to the ceiling. Hundreds of alien beings sat in those seats. Some looked like giant insects. Others looked like walking trees. A few looked almost human, but with strange colored skin and too many arms. At the center of the chamber stood a small platform. This was where humans had to stand when they wanted to speak. Jake hated that platform. It made humans look small and weak compared to all the aliens sitting above them. Ambassador Kate Sullivan was already there with the rest of the human team. She looked tired. Her face showed the stress of 3 long years trying to make these aliens listen to Earth's ideas. Colonel Ryan Hayes stood next to her, his military uniform neat and clean. But Jake could see the anger in his eyes, too. "Ah, the human commander arrives," said a voice from above. Jake looked up to see Counselor Vexthol, a creature that looked like a giant mantis with wings. "Perhaps now we can continue this important discussion about border security." Jake walked to the platform where his team waited. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him. The chamber was quiet, except for the soft humming of the air system. "As I was saying before the commander joined us," Vexthol continued, "the outer border worlds need better protection. The Drakmori pirates are getting bolder. They attack our trade ships and steal our cargo." Several other aliens nodded their heads or made sounds that meant they agreed. Jake had heard this same discussion many times. The council always talked about problems, but never wanted to hear human solutions. "The Korthic Empire suggests we increase patrols," said another alien. This one looked like a walking rock with gems for eyes. "Our ships are fast and well armed." "The Zeltharian Federation agrees," added a third alien. "Our energy weapons are the most advanced in the galaxy." Jake felt his hands turn into fists. These aliens had been saying the same things for months. Meanwhile, the Drakmori attacks were getting worse. Human ships had been attacked too, but the council acted like that did not matter. Colonel Hayes stepped forward. "Council members, Earth's military has studied the Drakmori attack patterns. We have a plan that could stop them." Some aliens in the chamber made sounds like laughing. Others whispered to each other. Jake saw a few of them roll their eyes. "The humans want to share their military wisdom," said Vexthol. His voice was full of mockery. "How wonderful. Please, Colonel, tell us about your primitive weapons and simple tactics." Hayes kept his voice calm and professional. "The Drakmori use hit-and-run tactics. They attack fast and then disappear. Our studies show they have bases in the Theta Sector asteroid field. If we could coordinate a multi-fleet operation... Coordinate?" Vexthol interrupted. "You mean you want our advanced fleets to follow orders from human commanders?" That is amusing. More aliens made laughing sounds. Jake felt his anger growing hotter. Kate Sullivan put a hand on his arm, trying to keep him calm. "The asteroid field is too dangerous," said the rock-like alien. "Our ships are too valuable to risk in such a place. Besides," added another voice, "the Drakmori are not a real threat. They are just pirates. A few patrol ships can handle them." Jake could not stay quiet anymore. "Those pirates destroyed 3 human cargo ships last month. 47 people died," How is that not a real threat? The chamber became quiet for a moment. Then Vexthil spoke again. Human losses are unfortunate, but they are not our main concern. Humans choose to travel through dangerous space. That is their risk to take. Your ships are slow and poorly armed, said another member. Of course they get attacked. If you built better ships, you would have fewer problems. Jake felt something snap inside him. 3 years. 3 years of listening to these aliens treat humans like children. 3 years of watching them ignore good ideas just because they came from Earth. 3 years of being talked down to and dismissed. Commander. Morrison, Kate whispered, stay calm. We need to finish this negotiation. But Jake was done with negotiations. He was done with being polite to aliens who thought humans were stupid. He was done with trying to prove that Earth deserved respect. He reached for his communication device. The small blue screen lit up in his hand. Every alien in the chamber could see what he was doing. Jake pressed the emergency contact button. Earth Command, this is Morrison, he said in a loud, clear voice. Execute Protocol 7. We are done here. The chamber became completely quiet. Even the humming of the air system seemed to stop. Jake looked up at all the alien faces staring down at him. Some looked confused. Others looked shocked. Ambassador Sullivan stood up slowly. She looked at Jake for a long moment, then nodded her head. She understood. They all understood. This was the moment they had been waiting for. Sullivan's voice carried across the silent chamber. The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from all ongoing negotiations with the Galactic Council. Our ships will depart within the hour. The silence that followed was so complete that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. He had never heard the council chamber so quiet. Hundreds of aliens sat frozen in their seats, unable to believe what they had just heard. Then the noise started. Aliens began talking all at once. Some shouted questions. Others made angry sounds. A few tried to stand up and speak at the same time. The chamber filled with a dozen different alien languages being spoken at once. But Jake was not listening anymore. He looked at his team. Kate Sullivan was smiling for the first time in months. Colonel Hayes was standing straighter, his shoulders back with pride. The other human diplomats and military officers were gathering their things and preparing to leave. Let's go home, Jake said. They walked out of the chamber together. Behind them, the aliens were still making noise, still arguing, still trying to understand what had just happened. But for the first time in 3 years, Jake Morrison did not care what the Galactic Council thought about humans. The age of asking for permission was over. Now it was time to show these aliens what humans could really do. Captain Lisa Park stood on the bridge of the UEF Relentless and watched her crew work. Every person knew their job and did it well. The ship was ready to leave Nexus Station. Behind them, 46 other human ships waited in perfect formation. All ships report ready for departure, Captain, said Lieutenant Dan Cooper from his station. His voice was calm, but Lisa could hear the excitement underneath. This was a big moment for all of them. Lisa looked at the main screen. Nexus Station was huge, bigger than most human cities. It had been the center of galactic politics for thousands of years. Ships from hundreds of different worlds came and went every day. But today, something different was happening. Take us out, slow and steady, Lisa ordered. I want every alien on that station to see us leave. The Relentless began to move. Its engines hummed with quiet power. The other human ships followed, each one keeping perfect distance from the others. They moved like a single unit, like parts of one big machine. Admiral Chris Bennett watched from the bridge of the UEF Defiance. His ship was the biggest in the human fleet. He had fought in 3 wars and commanded fleets across human space. But this felt different. This felt like the most important thing he had ever done. "Sir, we are getting lots of communications from the station," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster. She was young, but very good at her job. "The council members are trying to contact us. Some messages are marked urgent." Bennett did not even look at the communication board. "Ignore them all. They had 3 years to talk to us with respect. Now, they can talk to empty space." On Nexus Station, alien beings ran through the hallways. Some carried datapads with important messages. Others talked quickly into communication devices. The humans were really leaving, and nobody knew what to do. About it, Councillor Thane of the Korthic Empire stood in his private office, looking out the big window at the departing human ships. His people were traders who needed those ships to carry their goods across the galaxy. Human cargo haulers were cheap and reliable. Without them, Korthic trade routes would cost twice as much to operate. "This cannot be happening," Thane said. To his assistant, "Humans do not just leave. They ask for permission. They follow orders. They do what we tell them to do." His assistant, a younger Korthic with nervous eyes, held a datapad. "Sir, our trade division says human ships carry 30% of our cargo. If they stop working with us, we will lose millions of credits every month." Thane felt his stomach turn cold. The Korthic Empire was rich because of trade. If trade became too expensive, other alien races would find different partners. The Empire could fall apart. High Arbitrator Zelenoth of the Progenitor race called an emergency meeting. The progenitors were the oldest race in the council. They had seen civilizations rise and fall for 12,000 years. But they had never seen anything like this. The emergency meeting room was smaller than the main chamber. Only the most important council members were there. They sat around a curved table, their different alien forms creating strange shadows in the dim light. In 12,000 years of council history, Zelenoth began. No species has ever walked away from negotiations. The humans have broken every rule of galactic diplomacy. "They cannot do this," insisted Vexthul, the mantis-like alien who had mocked humans just hours before. "We are the Galactic Council. We decide who can leave and who must stay." But even as he said it, Vexthul knew. He was wrong. The humans were already gone. Their ships were moving away from the station, and there was nothing the Council could do to stop them. "What do we know about human military strength?" asked another council member. This alien looked like a giant flower with eyes on its petals. "Can we force them to return?" The room became quiet. For 3 years, the Council had treated humans like a small, weak race. They had never bothered to study human military power. Now they realized how little they actually knew about Earth's abilities. "Their ships look simple," said Vexthul, but his voice was not as confident as before. "Human technology is primitive compared to ours." "Then why," asked Zelenoth slowly, "do human cargo ships travel through space that our own ships avoid? Why do human traders go to dangerous worlds where our merchants will not go?" Nobody had an answer for that question. Meanwhile, the human fleet continued its slow, steady departure. Captain Park kept her ships moving at exactly the right speed. Not too fast, which would look like running away. Not too slow, which would look like hesitation. The humans were making a statement, and they wanted every alien to understand it clearly. On the UEF Defiance, Admiral Bennett received a private message on his personal communication device. The message came from General Robert Kim back on Earth. Bennett read it quickly, then smiled for the first time that day. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Operation Homecoming is approved. We are cleared to return to Earth with full honors." The human ships began to move faster. Their formation stayed perfect, but now they had purpose beyond just leaving the station. They were going home as heroes dot back on Nexus Station. More aliens were starting to panic. The Drakmori pirate attacks had been getting worse for months. The Council's military advisors had no good plan to stop them. But the humans had offered ideas that the Council had rejected without even considering them carefully. General Susan Clark had warned about Drakmori tactics many times during Council meetings. She had explained how the pirates were learning to fight better. She had shown data about their new weapons and ships. But the Council members had called her warnings primitive human paranoia. Now, with human ships leaving the station, some aliens remembered those warnings. What if the humans had been right? What if their simple-looking ideas were actually good plans that could work? Contact the human ships, ordered Counselor Thane. Tell them we want to discuss their departure. But Lieutenant Amy Foster on the Defiance had her orders. All communications from Nexus Station are being blocked, sir, she reported to Admiral Bennett. We are maintaining radio silence as ordered. The human fleet reached the edge of Nexus Station's traffic control zone. Here, they would normally ask permission to enter hyperspace. Instead, Captain Park gave the signal her fleet had been waiting for. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. Destination: Earth. Let's go home. One by one, the human ships disappeared in flashes of blue light. The last to go was Admiral Bennett's flagship, the UEF Defiance. It hung in space for a long moment, like it was looking back at the station one last time. Bennett too vanished, leaving empty space where the human fleet had been. On Nexus Station, aliens stared out windows at the empty space. For the first time in galactic history, a member species had chosen to leave. The humans were gone, and the Council had no idea what would happen next. 2 weeks had passed since the human ships left Nexus Station. Director Paul Adams sat in his office on Luna, Earth's moon, reading reports from across the galaxy. The information coming in was better than he had hoped for. The aliens were in trouble, and they knew it. Paul had spent years building a network of human spies and informants throughout Council space. Other alien races thought humans were too simple to run good intelligence operations. They were wrong. Human agents were everywhere, watching and listening. "Sir, we have another report from the Drakmori front," said Agent Nancy Wright. She had been working undercover on Proxima Hub for 2 years. The aliens there thought she was just a human trader selling basic goods. They never suspected she was sending secrets back to Earth. Paul read the report on his data pad. The news was bad for the Council, but good for Earth. The Drakmori pirates had attacked 3 more colonies in the past week. Each attack was bigger and more daring than the last. The Council's military response was a complete failure, Nancy's report said. Their ships arrived 6 hours after the pirates left. The Drakmori used exactly the tactics that General Susan Clark warned about. The alien commanders had no idea how to respond. Paul remembered those Council meetings. General Clark had stood on that small platform and explained everything about Drakmori battle plans. She had drawn pictures and shown data. The aliens had laughed at her. Now their colonies were burning. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Mark Taylor was watching a different kind of disaster unfold. His ship, the UEF Observer, was hidden in an asteroid field near the Korthic trade routes. The aliens did not know he was there. "Captain, another Korthic cargo convoy just turned back," reported his communications officer. "That makes 12 convoys this week that could not complete their routes." Mark looked at his tactical display. The trade routes were shown as green lines connecting different star systems, but many of those lines were turning red now. Without human cargo ships to carry goods cheaply, the routes were becoming too expensive to operate. The Korthic Empire was built on trade. They bought goods from one world and sold them on another world for profit. But their own ships were big and slow and used too much fuel. Human cargo haulers were smaller and faster and could carry goods for half the price. Sir, we are getting emergency communications from Korthic traders, the communications officer continued. They are asking if any human ships are available for hire. They are offering to pay double the normal rate. Mark smiled. Tell them to contact Earth Command through official channels. We are not taking private contracts anymore. Back on Earth, Admiral Chris Bennett was meeting with President Alan Foster in the underground command center beneath Geneva. The room was full of screens showing information from across human space. Ship positions, trade data, military reports, and intelligence updates filled every display. The plan is working better than we expected, Bennett reported. The aliens are starting to understand how much they need us. President Foster looked at a report about the Drakmori attacks. How many colonies have been hit now? 17 in 2 weeks, Bennett answered. Every single attack succeeded because the Council commanders ignored our tactical advice. They are fighting the last war, not the current one. The president nodded. Earth's military leaders had studied the Drakmori for years. They knew how the pirates thought and fought. But the proud alien races of the Council thought their ancient tactics were better than human ideas. Sir, we have an urgent message from the Veilthix Confederation, announced General Linda Ross. She was Earth's new intelligence chief, and her job was to watch what the Council members were doing. The Veilthix were one of the oldest and most powerful races in the Council. They had been founding members thousands of years ago. If they were sending messages to Earth, something important was happening. President Foster read the message on his personal screen. His eyes grew wide as he read the words. They want to meet with us in secret. They are offering us a permanent seat on the Inner Council. The Inner Council was the real power in galactic politics. Only 5 races had seats there. They made all the important decisions, while the regular council members just voted on small matters. Earth had been trying to get Inner Council representation. For 3 years. What are their terms? Asked Bennett. Full voting rights on all military matters. Command authority over joint operations. Preferred trade status with all council members. The president kept reading. And they want us to share our intelligence about the Drakmori threat. General Ross looked up from her datapad. Sir, our agents report that 3 more alien races are preparing to send similar offers. The Council is falling apart without us. On Nexus Station, High Arbitrator Zelenoff was having the worst 2 weeks of his very long life. The progenitors had ruled galactic politics for 12,000 years. They had seen young races come and go, but they had never seen anything like what humans were doing. The trade networks are collapsing, reported his economic advisor. Without human cargo ships, shipping costs have increased by 300%. 12 minor races are threatening to leave the Council if we cannot solve this problem. Zelenov felt very old and very tired. The humans had been so quiet during Council meetings. They had asked polite questions and made humble suggestions. Nobody had realized they were the foundation that held everything together. What about the Drakmori situation? He asked his military advisor. Worse every day, sir. Our commanders cannot predict their attacks. Every time we think we understand their pattern, they do something different. We have lost contact with 4 more colonies. Zelenoff remembered General Clark's warnings about Drakmori tactics. She had explained that the pirates were not just random raiders. They had a plan. They were testing Council defenses and learning from each battle. She had been right about everything. Sir, his advisor continued, some of our military officers are asking if we still have copies of the human tactical reports. The ones we rejected during the Council meetings. Councillor Vextel was having similar problems. The Zaltharian Federation's energy weapons were useless against enemies they could not find. The Drakmori would attack and disappear before the Zaltharian ships could get close enough to shoot. The humans said we needed fast scout ships and flexible tactics, his military commander reported. We told them their ideas were primitive. Now our colonies are defenseless. Vexthal had been the loudest voice mocking human military capabilities. He had called their weapons crude and their tactics simple. But simple tactics were working against the Drakmori, while advanced alien strategies were failing completely. Meanwhile, Agent Nancy Wright was watching the chaos from her position on Proxima Hub. The trading station was usually busy with ships from dozens of worlds. Now it was half empty. Many trade routes had stopped operating without human ships to carry cargo. The situation is getting desperate, she reported to Director Adams. Local alien leaders are talking about sending their own secret messages to Earth. They do not trust the Council to solve this problem. Paul Adams read her report and smiled. Everything was going according to plan. Earth had not just walked away from the negotiating table. They had taken their ball and gone home, and now everyone wanted to play by human rules. The phone rang in. His office. It was a direct line from President Foster. Paul, we just received formal communication from the Galactic Council. They want to discuss terms for our return. They are calling it an emergency session. Paul looked out his window at the Earth below. Somewhere down there, human factories were building new ships and weapons. Human scientists were developing new technologies. Human soldiers were training for battles that might never come. What are our terms, sir? Paul asked. Simple, the president answered. Respect, equality, and a real voice in galactic affairs. After that, we can talk about everything else. 6 months after walking away from Nexus Station, the humans were coming back. But this time, everything was different. Captain Steve Wilson stood on the bridge of the UEF Sovereign and watched Nexus Station grow larger on his main screen. His ship was the newest and biggest vessel in the human fleet. It was longer than 3 city blocks and armed with weapons that no alien had ever seen before. Sir, Nexus Station is requesting our docking assignment, reported his communications officer. They are offering us the primary diplomatic port. Steve smiled. 6 months ago, human ships had been assigned to the small cargo ports on the outside of the station. The primary diplomatic port was reserved for the most important races in the galaxy. Now the aliens were offering it to humans without being asked. Accept their offer, Steve ordered, and make sure our escort ships take positions around the station. I want every alien to see what human engineering can do. Behind the Sovereign, 12 other human warships moved into formation around Nexus Station. Each ship was different from the others, showing the variety of human military design. Some were built for speed, others for heavy combat. All of them looked dangerous. On the station, aliens pressed against viewing windows to stare at the human fleet. The ships did not look like alien vessels. They were sleek and angular, with weapons that could be seen from the outside. Most alien ships hid their weapons inside smooth hulls. Humans wanted everyone to know they were armed. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the UEF Defiance. He had been promoted after the successful withdrawal from the Council. Now he commanded all human military forces in Council space. Today, he was here to make sure the negotiations went the way Earth wanted. All ships report ready, Admiral, his tactical officer announced. The station's defense grid is no match for our combined firepower. Jake nodded. Earth had no plans to attack Nexus Station, but the aliens did not need to know that. Sometimes the threat of force was more useful than force itself. Lavra Mitchell walked through the corridors of Nexus Station toward the Council chamber. 6 months ago, Kate Sullivan had walked these same hallways as a junior partner begging for scraps. Today, Lavra walked as an equal who could choose to leave any time she wanted. Behind her walked General Tony Clark and Admiral Beth Turner. Both officers wore new uniforms with insignia that showed their ranks in the Terran Defense Alliance. This was humanity's new military partnership with 12 other alien races who had grown tired of council politics. "Ambassador, the council members are waiting for you," said an alien guide. The creature looked nervous and spoke in a respectful tone that humans had never heard before. Lavra nodded, but did not hurry her pace. Let the council wait. They had kept humans waiting for 3 years. Now it was their turn. The council chamber looked the same as always, but the atmosphere was completely different. Instead of hundreds of aliens looking down at humans on a small platform, the chamber was arranged for proper negotiations. A large table sat in the center, with chairs for human and alien representatives. High Arbitrator Zelenoth sat at one end of the table. The ancient progenitor looked older than he had 6 months ago. The stress of the past half-year had aged him visibly. Next to him sat Counselor Thane of the Korthic Empire and several other high-ranking aliens. "Ambassador Mitchell," Zelenoth began, "the Galactic Council welcomes humanity back to these negotiations. We hope we can find a solution that benefits everyone." Lavra sat down across from him. Her team took seats on either side of her. She opened a datapad and looked at her notes before speaking. "The Galactic Council requested this meeting," she said calmly. "We are here to discuss terms for humanity's conditional return to galactic politics." The word conditional hung in the air like a threat. The humans were not begging to come back. They were considering an offer, and they might reject it if the terms were not good enough. "What are humanity's requirements?" asked Counselor Thane. His voice was much more respectful than it had been 6 months ago. Laura looked at her datapad. First, equal representation in all council votes. Second, veto power over military decisions that affect Earth or our allies. Third, the establishment of a new tribunal to handle disputes between established and developing civilizations. The aliens looked at each other nervously. These were big changes to the way galactic politics worked. But they had learned over the past 6 months that they needed humans more than humans needed them. Fourth, Lavra continued, joint command structure for all military operations, with human officers having equal authority to alien commanders. And fifth, formal recognition of the Terran Defense Alliance as a legitimate political entity within Council space. Admiral Turner spoke up. "The Alliance now includes 15 different species. We represent over 200 star systems and 40 billion beings. We are not a small group anymore." This was news to the Council members. They had thought humans were just one troublesome species. Now they learned that Earth had built a coalition of allies while the Council was dealing with pirates and trade problems. "The Drakmori situation has become critical," admitted Zelenoth. "Our military commanders cannot stop their attacks. We have lost 17 colonies and over 3 million lives." General Clark opened his own datapad. "Earth intelligence has been tracking Drakmori movements for the past 6 months. We know where their bases are located and how their command structure works. We can stop them, but only if our tactics are followed exactly." Counselor Vexthu, who had mocked human military ideas 6 months ago, now leaned forward eagerly. "What do you need from us?" "Complete authority over anti-piracy operations," Clark answered. "No interference from Council military advisors. No questions about our methods. And full access to your intelligence networks." The aliens talked quietly among themselves for several minutes. Lavra waited patiently. She could afford to wait. Earth had other options now. The Terran Defense Alliance was strong enough to defend itself without Council help. Finally, Zelenoth spoke. "The Council accepts these terms. We formally recognize the Terran Defense Alliance and grant humanity full membership status with all associated privileges." "Including inter-council representation?" Lavra asked. "Including inter-council representation," Zelenoth confirmed. Over the next hour, The details were worked out. Humans would have 2 seats on the inner council, the same as the largest alien. Empires. Earth would lead all military operations against the Drakmori. Human ships would have free passage through all council space. The Terran Defense Alliance would be treated as an equal partner in galactic affairs. When the signing ceremony was finished, Captain Wilson stood on the observation deck of the Sovereign, watching alien ships move carefully around his vessel. They kept respectful distances and asked permission before coming close. The change in attitude was remarkable. Admiral Morrison joined him at the viewing window. "Think they learned their lesson?" he asked. Wilson looked at the sleek human warships arranged in formation around the station. They learned that respect is not given freely. It has to be earned. And if they forget that lesson again? He gestured toward the human fleet. Each ship was ready for battle if necessary. But more importantly, each ship represented human independence. Earth would never again beg for a seat at someone else's table. "We proved something important today," Morrison said. "Sometimes the best way to win a negotiation is to show you do not need it." The age of human subservience was over. The age of galactic partnership had begun. And everyone in the galaxy now understood that humans were equals, not servants. They had walked away from the table when they were not respected, and they had returned as the power that everyone else needed. The Council had learned its lesson. Humans were not primitive. They were not simple. They were not weak. They were patient, clever, and strong enough to survive on their own. And that made them the most dangerous allies and the most valuable friends in the galaxy.